Hello. Hello, everybody. Look at there. Facebook changed stuff again, and I like the change so far. Awesome. How are you guys tonight? It's cold. Super duper cold here. Um, and cold makes me tired, and so I'm sleepy. And I just want to go back under my blankie. Excuse me. How's it going? Say hi. Well, oh, there you are. I couldn't see it. Hey, Brandy. Hi, Brian. Every time you listen to me, you're outside, Brian. Hey, Reggie. Good evening to you, too. Hi, Dan. Oh, this is very cool. Oh, I can't see that, though. All right. Minus 42 wind chill here today at 2. Ouch. I'm going to stop complaining now, Brandy. I don't know what ours was. I I don't look at the weather during the day, but I think that my husband said it was like negative 10 or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, hey Chandy. It's just cold, and I can't really complain because it's been so nice. And so um but I don't like the cold. I'm over it. I'm old enough to be over it, so, you know. I'd head south, but they get snow. Texas is getting snow, so why go south? I don't even have snow. Oh, what is it coming to? All right. Oh, we are at 8:30. Nice. Um, for those of you that are just joining for the first time, welcome. Welcome all you awesome people who come back every week and listen. I appreciate it. For those of you that are new, and this might be your first time, I am Mary Jo, and I am the author of the book Farming Without the Bank. And I teach what is called the infinite banking concept to farmers so we can get away from the banking system. So if you are one of those farmers, or if you are a business owner wanting to get away from the banking system, this all applies to you. If you have not gotten the book Farming Without the Bank, go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and grab Farming Without the Bank and Becoming Your Own Banker. You are going to want both of those. Becoming Your Own Banker was written by the founder of the infinite banking concept, R. Nelson Nash. And so both those books go very well together. And I actually have Farming Without the Bank in audio. Soon we will have Life Without the Bank for business owners. Soon we will have that one. The audio got done today. And so we're getting closer. Hopefully by next week we can say, go get it. All right. Hey, David. I forgot what I was going to say. All right. This week's meetings. So remember last week, for those of you awesome people who follow me every week, remember last week when I had the business the farm management instructor guy, and he was telling me that he has sat across in an audit, and a lot of people ask this question: can I use the loan as an expense? So can I write the interest off? Yes, you sure can, according to my accountant. right? Every accountant's a little bit different. Everybody's a little bit pickier than the next guy. And so, my accountant says, yes, that's fine. No big deal. He was an IRS auditor. We should be okay. Well, this guy last week said, no, we should not. And so we kind of went back and forth about that a little bit. And so the guy that I met with this week is a farmer that has like $240,000 of whole life insurance, cash value. And he has been using that cash value for years. And he has been audited several times. Lucky guy. And I said, well, have you been writing the interest off on your taxes? He said, absolutely, I have. It's been for farm expenses. And I said, did that hold up on your audit? Yes, it did. Every single time. So, who's right, who's wrong? Some auditors are going to be jerks, right? And some auditors are not. And he said the exact same thing. He's like, you never know what kind of auditor you're going to get. So is the guy that is the farm management instructor wrong? No. Is my accountant wrong? No, I don't think so. I think it's just kind of the luck of the draw. But that is a big question. Can I write the interest off that the insurance company is charging me? If it is for a farm expense, according to my accountant, yes. According to some other accountants, yes. According to some yet more accountants, no. So really ask your accountant, and at the end of the day, you got to do what you're comfortable with. And this guy could have cared less about an audit. He's like, yeah, so I get audited. Big deal. He's like, they've never found anything. And so sounds like he's got audited 2 out of 3 years, and then he got audited again last year, and so he's kind of the pro at it at this point. But very interesting guy. I really enjoyed visiting with him. So he is doing a lot of abnormal type stuff, and so he's got some sugarcane. And it was interesting because I've learned a little bit about sugarcane, and sugarcane needs to be replanted every 4 years. Supposedly. This guy's like, I don't replant my sugar cane. He's like, the expense to make up X amount of what I would lose because it's a little bit older, and you only make that up for 1 year, and then the sugar cane starts to go downhill again. He's like, it doesn't make sense. And I thought that was interesting. Not that I know anything about sugar cane, but just the different thought process around it. Because I have had several sugarcane clients, and they all say the same thing. Has to be replanted every 4 years, or whatever the normal is. And this guy's like, no. So you replant it on year 5, you get a higher yield, but then year 2, 3, and 4, you go back down to where you were. What's the point? Is the cost, are you actually gaining anything by doing that by the time you figure labor and plant costs and all that sort of thing? So very interesting. He is also planting, and this is not, I actually checked into this. He is planting some kind of a tree that grows really fast. You harvest it every 10 years, and then it regrows from the trunk, and so, or the stump. So that was interesting. And then you can get 7 clearings off of those trees. They absorb more CO2, they produce more oxygen, they're good for bees because they flower, and the wood is as strong as oak, but it is a white wood, not a yellow wood. So very cool. We cannot grow those here in North Dakota. Imagine that. Can't grow anything here because it's cold. So it was interesting. It was just interesting to listen to him. He did have another tip for me that I am going to share with you. Let me find this quick. Because this is important. He subscribes to the Successful Farming magazine, the Progressive Farmer, and the Farm Journal. Now, if I am correct, they are all basically written by the same people. I think there's one big company that owns them, and then all these publications go out underneath. But he said in those three magazines, there is always a tax article or something to do with taxes. And he said that has saved me thousands and thousands of dollars over the years, because there are tax tips in there that the accountant might not know about, or things that he's taken advantage of. And he gave me an example, and I forget what the example is. But the point of the matter is, you cannot trust that your accountant knows everything. You cannot trust that your banker knows everything. I come in and your estate planner and your attorneys, right? Because we can't know everything. I don't know everything about everything. I have to have a circle of people around me, and I love to surround myself with different kinds of people that I can reach out to and say, have you heard of this? Have you heard of this? Just like the farm management instructor last week, that he and I didn't agree on everything, but it's okay. Because I learned something from him. I learned something from this guy. You need to be at least somewhat aware of what's going on and of these things, that you can take them to your accountant and say, can we do this? Because you can't just rely on them to give you that information. Sad? Yes. You aren't in the business of wanting to be an accountant, but we still need to be aware, because if our accountant isn't aware, then what? Right? If the accountant doesn't specialize in farming, then what? Like, my accountant, who I absolutely love, he's a great guy. But I asked him something about a skid steer. And he said, I had to look up what a skid steer was. And I said, if you had to look up what a skid steer is, I don't think you can be my accountant any longer. Like, if you don't know anything about farming and we just bought acreage, I don't know that that's going to work so good, right? There's benefits to him, to using him. He knows the tax code. He's been an auditor for 30 years. But at the same time, you kind of have to know some stuff about farming. Like, hey, do you know where the food comes from that you go to the grocery store and get? So if we have to educate ourselves, we have to educate ourselves, right? Okay, and then I had another lovely young couple who didn't have a lot. They are farming with their parents, and they're just doing small-scale farming. I mean, they have quite a few. They've just adopted some foster children, and they do a lot of foster stuff, and he has an off-the-farm job. And what I thought was interesting about them, and I loved this concept, he said, they have a garden and they grow the majority of their food because they don't live anywhere near a grocery store, I guess. And so they said, this year we're going to plant maybe more tomatoes, for example. And they coordinate it with mom and dad's big, huge garden. Because if they have a lot of jams that they processed last year and a lot of jelly, then this year they're going to maybe process a lot of tomatoes. Well, then next year they might they might plant a lot of something else. And so what a great idea, though, to coordinate it instead of everybody just going about business on their own. And I think that as farmers and ranchers, we are very independent, more independent than maybe we need be. And I understand this is small scale, but think big. If we can work together, can we get the same thing accomplished and maybe better, and not be quite so independent? Hey, Tony from 80-degree Florida, where you are not wearing sweatshirts. All right. The next individual I had was she and I had a lot of fun. If you have visited with me and or you're a client, you know that I love to run ideas and strategies. And even if you've listened to me, you know I love all this like crazy new type stuff. So her and her husband just bought like 160 acres. They're down south where there's lots of trees. So they are clearing the trees so they can have a community garden, and they're going to let people build on the land so that they can have a community. They're going to do some Verbo type homes, from what I understand. And it's very interesting concept to me. She is a herbalist, and so they're going to grow lots of herbs, lots of microgreens. If you do not know what microgreens are, just Google it. I was surprised that people didn't know what microgreens are. Maybe I know because I talk to a lot of people that do that sort of thing, but I've known people that have been doing microgreens for 20 years. There was a lady locally that did it 20 years ago. But it was interesting. They're gonna have honey. They're gonna have she would want like a little store. They basically want this area to be self-sufficient on its own. But it was another part of her story was interesting because they filed bankruptcy. Oh, during the Obama administration. And why? My question was why? Well, the administration had changed something. Her husband lost his job, but he did not want to give up his dream that they owed money on. And he just wouldn't give up. So they ended up filing bankruptcy. And that's just proof that sometimes we're better off to cut our losses because we can't always save it. It's not the end of the world, but now they've had to really dig themselves out of that the last few years. Then guess what happens this year or last year? COVID hit, which basically shut down her business. All the kids lost their jobs within a matter of 2 weeks, and so the kids move home. And so it's really, their story is quite interesting, but super resilient people. She has big thoughts. And typically with people like this, she wants to take some of the money that she's getting from the clearing of the logs to start a policy. Great idea, right? However, I would normally be a little bit resistant to that because we don't have a lot of cash flow. This community hasn't started. We don't have the garden. Like, they just bought this place and just moved in not that long ago. And so we're in that transition phase. And when we're in a transition phase, I tend to be super conservative. I want to either wait to start something or I want to start something very, very slow. This lady is never going to be settled. She is a big idea girl, and she is going to shoot for the moon. And there is never going to be a specific time that she's not going to be advancing this property, that she's not going to have another idea, that she's going to be ready to start. And so for her, it really is, it's now or never. Like, this is just as good a time as any other. Now, not always does, yes, the financials are important, but in situations like this, when I can see somebody's personality, and I know it like that, like, you could pick up on her personality in 5 seconds, unless you know nothing about personalities and people, that she is never going to stop. She has been researching this for 2 years and planning for this property. It's going to be big, and it's going to be successful, and she's going to do an amazing job. So we just got to get her started. We just got to get her started where it's comfortable and it makes sense, and she'll figure out how to do it. That's just how she is. I have another client who I met with that they are going through a transition, a huge transition. Dad is 80, and he decided that he is going to let the kids take over. So we are not, in their case, going to start super large, right? We're going to start something a little bit smaller because we don't know what's happening. Like, this is 2 weeks. They just found out 2 weeks ago. And so we have to figure out what that transition is going to look like. There's lots of attorney meetings to happen, lots of estate planning to happen, all that good stuff. So we are going to start where it's comfortable. The interesting part about these particular clients is they are Dave Ramsey fans, in the essence of me agreeing with Dave Ramsey on the fact that we can get debt under control if we don't live outside of our means, if we don't buy stuff that's unnecessary, right? But they also agree that Dave Ramsey is not teaching them how to create cash flow, how to grow a business, how to farm, which is what all of my Dave Ramsey followers, clients agree with. Like, I love him for the fact that he gets everybody out of debt. This couple basically has no debt. They're super, super frugal. They said they'll buy a used car and run it into the ground, right? Because why have all those new car payments? And so kudos to them, because why? They're beating Parkinsons Law. Our Parkinsons Law is, if this is the first time you've heard this, Parkinsons Law is our needs rise to meet our income, and a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. You have a new car with a warranty and the new car smell and heated leather seats, you are always going to want a new car smell and heated leather seats and the warranty if something were to happen. These guys are beating Parkinson's Law. They are doing an amazing job. They have a beef business of, they sell beef to consumers. They've done that for 6 years, all on cash. They hardly have any loans at all. No cattle notes, no equipment notes. So they're being smart about it, but we're missing the cash flow. What they're doing, they did have one small note. I think it was I don't remember what it was. Anyway, it was a smaller note. So they're overpaying on their house every month and doing exactly what Dave Ramsey says, right? What all the talking heads say. Pay extra on your house, pay extra on your house, pay extra on your house. Then they go back to the bank and they borrow the same money for a piece of equipment or for cattle at 4.5% to 5.5% interest. You're paying extra on a 3.1% loan. Then you need that exact same money, so you go back to the bank to borrow it at 5%. They're just lending you your own money back. I am not a huge believer in paying extra on mortgages, especially when a mortgage is 3% right now. Why not take that extra money, even if you don't do infinite banking? Put it in a savings account, and when you need money, go to the savings account to get it. Why go back to the bank and pay them interest? So, because we're always needing something else. The thing with them is we talked a lot about strategies, because what's mom and dad's strategy and the estate planner strategy is pay mom and dad $145,000 a year for living expenses. And that's rent. So we're not paying them that. We're renting the land from them at $145,000 a year. If mom lives for another 27 years, guess what? The land's paid for. And then he gets to buy out his sibling. I hate that flippin' strategy. If there is a strategy that gets my goat, it's that one. Here, rent from me, and then when I die, you can buy it again. Why aren't we doing a contract for deed on the portion I'm going to have to buy? Why don't you just I'll just rent the portion that I'm going to inherit. I'll rent that, and then I'll buy a contract for deed on the portion of my sibling. In this case, he has some whole life insurance because mom and dad bought whole life on him when he was a baby. Dad's 80. Dad has a lot of whole life himself. And so there's going to be some death benefit there to help him out. Thank goodness. But at the end of the day, like I told these guys, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And all of our estate planners do it the same way. For heaven's sakes, why are we buying this place twice? And just as I heard last week from the business the business coach guy, or the farm management teacher, he's like, well, but if we rent it and we give dad $145,000 in rent, it's rental income to dad, which is going to be passive income, and it is a rent expense to the son, which is also a great expense for the son. So it's a great tax write-off for the son. It's a great tax income for mom and dad. Where if we sold it, we're going to have capital gains and not as much interest income. The son is going to have principal that he cannot write off and not as much interest to write off. So we are putting our tax concern over the fact that the kid has nothing as collateral, no ownership in anything. How are we supposed to farm ground and get a line of credit if we need one when we don't have any collateral? Our estate planners and our transition coaches, or whatever we call them, seem to be missing this factor, right? I don't know the big picture here. I don't know which option is going to be the best, but I can tell you that we are missing some of the picture by just putting everybody in the cookie cutter, rent from mom and dad to pay for their living expenses, and then guess what? When they die, you get to buy it again from the siblings. It's a brilliant idea. Not so much. People, there's more than one way to skin a cat. What are our needs? It's no different than the infinite banking concept. The infinite banking concept, that's what Nelson wrote us about, right? That's what he's teaching us. Yet all I hear about is, what's the rate of return? What's the rate of return? What's the interest rate on that? Why would I borrow money from the policy at a higher % interest rate? Because you have control. It's not about the rate. It's about control. It's not about who's going to pay less taxes necessarily. It's about control. It's about transitioning that before we end up in the nursing home. And then it's too late and we sell it anyway. Let's think long term. Let's think about everything and not just taxes. Oh. Hey, Caleb. Okay. That got me a little bit riled. I have another guy. This one was fun because he and his dad 30 years ago set up a corporation, an S-corp, and a partnership. One of them handles the cattle, one of them handles the grain side of the operation. And dad sold his shares to the grandson, so now grandpa sold his shares to the grandson, so now it's just dad and the son. And I met with dad. So this was really fun because they don't even use operating money. They don't have any equipment notes. The only notes that they have are land. Grandpa has managed the money and still does today in his 80s, does all the bookkeeping, but they are not buying things they don't need. They are not replacing things every year. They have been very smart about what they have done so that they don't have to go to the bank. So when people tell me it's not possible, oh yes it is. It is possible. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is possible. And so the one thing that, and the son, okay, so the dad that I talked to has insurance on grandpa. So when grandpa passes away, he has insurance, he has a policy on grandpa, and he has a second to die policy on grandpa and grandma. So he has 2 life insurance policies on his dad. Awesome. Absolutely the most awesome planning ever. The thing that they were missing is he has gotten remarried. And the son is married. So they have this partnership and they don't have insurance on each other yet. So the dad and the son don't have insurance on each other. But we don't know what happens if dad dies. Does it go to stepmom? Does the son buy her out? What happens if the son dies? Does it go to his wife? Does dad have to buy her out? This is all stuff that's not in their plan. And they are actually working right now with attorneys. And these are questions I'm raising, but they had not thought of. They had not really talked about. And yet they're talking to attorneys. So we can't assume that, oh yeah, of course she would get it. Would she? Her name's not on the partnership. Does she assume? Does the partnership say that she is going to get it? Does the S corporation say she is going to assume your shares? We have to know what's happening. But it was really fun because they want to plan. They're talking about it. They're farming with cash. They really have been planning for years, 30 plus years. Why? Because Grandpa started it correctly. It's not all perfect, but it is 99% better than most people have it. So please learn from this. Yes, you can farm by making the bank plan B. You absolutely can do it. Yes, we can save a family farm by planning. And it's going to take time, if not generations. I don't know if am I a little glitchy on your guys' side? Because I'm glitchy on my side. Hey, Dave. Okay. I have 2 left. So if you guys have questions, make sure that you are putting them in the comments. Oh, I had one person share. Well, that's very nice. Thank you. I had another young couple that he is maxing out his Roth IRAs and said, well, I probably won't be doing that anymore. But another thing, just very simple, that I found, why are we putting money into a Roth IRA and then in the very next breath you tell me that you want money to buy land? If you put money in a savings account to buy the land and you pay yourself back for the savings account, you will have money for retirement. We do not need to segregate our money. There is no reason to compartmentalize money. If we were honest with our money, we would not need to have a 401k and a Roth just for retirement that we couldn't use until we're 59 and a half or 65 or 70. Why? Why are we doing that? I don't care if you don't do the infinite banking concept through the life insurance policy, use that same concept in a savings account. If you use money from savings, please put it back. I had that question. Mary Jo, if I use money to buy a tractor with cash, how am I supposed to pay that back? Because I paid cash for the tractor. I said, but you buy a new tractor every 4 years, you just said. Yep. I said, do you pay cash every 4 years? Yep. I said, so how did the money get there over the next 4 years to buy that tractor? You saved it, right? You put it away. Yep. That's your payment. You're calling it a deposit. I'm calling it a payment. It's the same thing. Don't worry about the terminology of what it's called. It is a payment or it is a deposit. If you are buying something with cash and replacing it every 4 to 5 years, like if you're buying a car with cash and then you go buy your next car with cash, you saved. But did you save plus interest? You kept putting the payment in there, but if you didn't add interest in, you just stole money from yourself. You would have been willing to pay somebody else interest. Why not charge yourself 4 or 5% interest? Then when you want to go buy the next vehicle, you have a little extra money to do so. And so on and so on and so on. Right? Don't short suit yourself because it's you. Pay yourself 10% interest because it's you. And you know where it's going. And I had another farmer who dad is also 80. And this guy was younger. Dad was 60. And they don't really know what's going to happen when dad retires, even though dad has had a quadruple bypass. That was not enough to get him to think about, maybe we should be doing some estate planning, right? Because this dad's thought process is, it's mine, you don't need to know about it, don't worry about it, it's none of your business. Even though you're going to inherit it and you're going to have to buy out your siblings, it's none of your business. Sometimes you just don't get people to talk. And so in this situation, we had to look at what's plan B. We're going to have to figure out what plan B is so that they can take care, they can try to do the best that they can, so when it is time to take over, that they can take over. But he is running his own land and his own cattle and everything as well, which is probably a good thing if there is not going to be any type of communication. Here's the moral, my friends. When I see a family that has a corporation or a partnership and they are doing things together and they are communicating, in most cases, they're financially in a better position than if we are farming separately but helping each other. Because if we are farming separately but helping each other, we did not pool our money together, which means we are not advancing as quickly as people that are pooling their money together. Well, if you're going to have a partnership and you're going to have a corporation, you better figure out how you're going to get along. You better figure out and understand that you both get to make those decisions. And as I've said before, don't be putting 15 people into a partnership. Keep it simple. When grandpa sells out, the new one buys in. It is not given to them, they are buying in. But we're going to know that years in advance so that we can plan. Dave, you are correct. I have several podcasts talking about that. So yes, you can use the infinite banking concept to fund your operation. You can use it to buy cattle. You can use it to buy equipment. You can use it for operating. We first need to capitalize it. So we first need to get some money in and we need to get it started. And it could take some time to do that. Then you're going to pay it back, which is going to leave it there for retirement. Farmers can actually retire. There's a concept. And then, yes, we're going to leave it to the next generation as death benefit. I like you. You understand, and that is in the book as well. You guys, that's it. A lot of my other meetings this week were existing people that we closed business, we got policies started, and I had a lot of them this week. So that's all I had for new meetings this week. If you have questions, you know where I'm at. MaryJo@withoutthebank.com. If you have not gotten the books, Farming Without the Bank and Becoming Your Own Banker, this one is an audio. Go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and grab it. And then grab this one and read this one. If you are not listening to my podcasts on a regular basis, why not? Silly goose. Go to your podcast app because I am telling you, people tell me all the time, I learned a lot more from the podcast, and it helped educate me on the book. So, what does that mean? I'm going to buy the book today. I can't get in to see Mary Jo for a few weeks. 4 or 5, whatever it is right now. So I can't get in to see Mary Jo for a few weeks. Listen to the podcast in that amount of time. It's going to help answer a lot of questions. It's going to help you understand who I am, how I work, right? So don't think that, oh, you just read the book, it's the only education you need. No, 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 no. I have this awesome client he's like 78 or something. And he's my old cowboy. And I just love the guy. He's so funny. And I said, are you listening to my podcast? He's like, yeah, I listen once in a while. And I said, and he goes, some of them are better than others. He is the only person that has told me some of my podcasts aren't very good. I love it. I appreciate the honest feedback. And so, because everybody tells me how awesome they are. I don't believe that they're all awesome. So, I liked the honest feedback. If you want to hear something on a podcast, if you want me to address something, let me know on email me, maryjo@withoutthebank.com. I am not sure that we're going to have a Facebook Live next week. So if I'm not here, that's why. Because I am going to be out of the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so I will only have one day of meetings. So I'm not quite sure what Thursday is going to look like. But if you have questions, if you need anything, you know where I'm at. Otherwise, you guys have an absolutely fantastic night and have a fantastic week. And gosh, this was a short live. And we will see you again maybe next week or the following. Talk to you later.